beat me in bodybuilding, and here is his son, Sergio.
How's it going?
Big bodybuilding star.
Dave Palumbo here with Chris, the Technician Aceto, and we're here at the 2017 IFBB New York Pro Championships. It just let out. As you can see, a lot of rigmarole and noise in the background. But Chris, Sergio Oliva Jr. finds a way to win again. He won the Nationals and comes here for his pro debut. It was a hectic week, I know, for you with Sergio, but he emerges victorious. We said this show was going to be about conditioning, and conditioning it was.
You know, somebody planted it in my head like 3 weeks out. You know, you're not aware of things, that it is going to be about conditioning, and I was like, it is? Then that's easy, because it was close, you know what I mean? And oddly enough, he went and guest posed in Pittsburgh, and he was so nervous to guest pose in front of, he flew, he was so nervous to guest pose with all the great guys, sit in front of Mannion and all this. He looked terrible on stage, and people would text me, he's never going to make it. And I'm like,
he was eating a bunch of junk food, right?
Well, I said he was ripped. I mean, he was ripped like 5 days before. So either he carved up so he would be small next to Ramy and Phil, but just the nerves were just killing him going into that show. He didn't want to be small, and he was able to reverse that and come into the show as, the tightest guy in the lineup, really, or one of the tightest.
Another surprise, John De La Rosa in second place, obviously challenging. I mean, you really could flip a coin between these two guys. To me, I said it right in Sergio's interview I did with him, that I felt it was his stage charisma. I felt it was the fact that he was a little better conditioned that really pushed him over the edge, because De La Rosa probably was more complete muscle-wise for a frame.
I agree. John was very round, which which exposes the lack of thickness front to back that Sergio had. In prejudging, I think you could toss a coin in terms of Sergio's level of conditioning, and his height and width plays a role against John's not lack of height, but just different body type.
Well, I think Sergio had more wow, and your eyes go to him first on the stage. I felt when he was hitting some of these old classic, his dad poses, the weird, offbeat poses, I thought it really pulled you in.
Yeah. I think what, at the end of the day, Sergio brought up his own personal game in terms of conditioning, which I don't think people expected that. Yeah. And he had added muscle since the Nationals. So he looked different than what people's expectations were.
And he's a Kai Green with the posing. I mean, he has very weird poses, but they pull you in, and you want to see him improve. And he seems to get more excited on stage, and his physique gets better. It doesn't get worse. They have these guys out there for 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah, he was pumped up, and he had a lot of stamina, and he does have stage presence. I mean, the routine, it's like this non-conventional routine that. That's a really exciting routine because it's kind of like a weirdo routine, right?
Like it's Kai Green routine. Now, third place, Juan Morel, I thought Juan looked good, but I thought he didn't look as good as the fourth place finisher, Luis Rodriguez, who is a new guy whose claim to fame is that he beat Boston Lloyd at a show in Connecticut before he turned pro. But the truth is, this guy is really good, Luis Rodriguez. I mean, I was super impressed.
I was really impressed with him. He's just round. He looks like a bodybuilder should look like. I mean, he's really impressive. He doesn't have weak body parts.
His legs could come up a little bit, but his upper body is very impressitive.
His back double is very impressive. His front double is very impressive. He's got thick pecs.
You can make an argument for him winning the show, really.
Peeled, he would have won the show. Yeah. Like with the extraordinary condition. I mean, his condition was really good, too. Okay. Yeah. But just like peeled, he would have won.
He's only been training for a couple of years. He told me it's almost unbelievable.
It's like
it's a Livroni. Yeah, he's going to be really good in a couple of years.
For sure.
Once again, Juan Morel. Juan and I talk backstage, and we're good friends. And And I thought, he thought that we were wrong about his legs. He told me his legs were actually bigger, but his upper body got bigger. So I don't. Maybe he's just disproportionate.
Well, that would be the same thing.
I mean, you still got a problem.
I mean, if your upper body gets bigger than your legs look smaller. So it doesn't matter like measurements or anything.
Right.
So it's all relative.
I think he says he's going to start changing the way he trains his legs. He was training him too heavy. He feels now he can squeeze more and bring out more detail. But obviously Juan, if his legs were up and full like he was 2 years ago, wins the show.
Yeah, I think Juan would have won the show the Juan Morel that won the show 2 years ago was the best Juan Morel to date. Yeah. And that's where he has to get back to, whether it's, shrinking the upper body to match the legs if they haven't, if the legs aren't smaller, then it might be a matter of bringing the upper body down to get back to the New York Pro 2 years ago look.
Now, let's talk about Akeem Williams, fifth place, who goes out to Kuwait 4 months ago, works out at Oxygen Gym, definitely puts on a lot of size. He came back way bigger than I've seen him, but not as lean as we saw him last year at the Tampa show, at the Baltimore show, at the Arnold South Africa. Not a good look in terms of showing detail and conditioning. And then, and to me, that hurt him because I think he could have won this show had he been in shape.
Yeah, no, if he was in this shape, I mean, it's insane to pretend that he wouldn't have won the show. So that just goes. That's just goes to show you, one, how far out of shape he actually was, and then two, the distance between John's conditioning and Sergio's conditioning and his. There's a big gap there that Did
they try to bring him in too big? You think was that the mistake that they made, the calculated mistake?
No, I think they got what happens with the big guys. You get suckered in and enamored by the mass when you see it in the gym.
And he looks good from the front and sides, you know.
And you think that is enough. And Jose Raymond has a great quote. He always says, "You need to bring to IFBB stages to win Olympia level conditioning." And when people say, "What's Olympia level conditioning?" Jose will say, "Well, then you obviously haven't achieved it yet." Right. Because if you achieve it, you know it, and you don't have to ask. Or if you see it, you know it, and you don't have to ask. And that's the entanglement that or quagmire that he's stuck in now is he's bringing condition, but it's not the level of condition to show off that amount of mass.
And
Has he called you yet?
What? No. We talked backstage a little bit, but I mean, it is a problem, obviously, because we want to see Akeem realize his potential. He's a Ronnie Coleman in the making. I mean, and he just needs to bring the conditioning. Yeah,
no, I agree. I mean, you could make the argument that if he was in his Tampa condition, or even the Olympic condition last year, or even the Baltimore condition last year, he probably would have won the show. So that just to give perspective and context of, how he needs to look or what he didn't look like tonight.
Let's talk about the 212 division. Ronnie Raquel coming in here, dominating, that 212, winning. I think a lot of people wrote him off.
Me too.
He told me he did? Because, he's a diabetic now. He just cut his carbs out. He doesn't need any insulin when he doesn't need carbs because he's not a full-blown diabetic. Yeah. And he said all of a sudden the weight just came off and I got him in shape and he did his diet himself.
Oh. Wish on right. He's going to say, see, you don't need a guru.
Yeah.
No, he looked, he looked big. He looked round. Personally, I was surprised that he ended in first place because I thought his condition wasn't like that good.
No, I didn't think his glutes were straight. I think he can still be better.
Back.
Yeah. Who did you like?
I liked Craig Richardson and Sean Clarita. I think they're bookends of the same, they get the flowing thighs. Craig was peeled. Clarita was mostly peeled. Clarita is super round. Craig has, all kinds of showy body parts. Some poses that are just exceptionally hard.
Clarita said he put 15 pounds on, or 17 pounds from last year. He said he's going to put another 15 pounds on this year. Is that a mistake, you think? Or you think it fits well on his frame?
Well, this 15 fit well on his frame, so why wouldn't he say, based on what I've done in the past, why wouldn't another 15?
He wants to be 190 on stage. He was, I think, 170 here.
If he's 190, he wins the show in 2 minutes next year. Honestly, if
crazy shape
on that type of frame, he's got a small frame, but a small waist still.
Right.
Even 5 pounds is significant. So he was impressive here. He was impressive last year. I thought he was overlooked. He was impressive the year before. I think it's amazing how much he's improved. He's like a Dexter. I don't know. Is it maybe he'll end up doing the Open like Dexter? I mean, because we've been making fun of Dexter if he was standing and say, "I'm moving up from the bantamweights."
Right, yeah,
Dexter's name always comes up with me.
Dexter was
somehow.
like 20 years old when he was a bantamweight. He wasn't, in his 30s. Let's talk about Classic Physique because that was super exciting as well. That was a great fought battle. We thought George Peterson was going to come in here and dominate. Breon Ansley proved everyone wrong. He came in, terrific conditioning, terrific stage presence,
Low,
posing,
natural shape.
I mean, he beat George Peterson tonight.
He beat George Peterson because he has a weird athleticism to his physique that looks like he's a crossover between a bodybuilder and a gymnast.
Yeah, you're right. He looks like a gymnast.
And the movement on stage, the way he hits the poses, the freshness of the muscle, where George Peterson looks like he's a 212 guy and said, I'll do the classic too.
Right.
And if you're going to go with classic, if it's going to be defined with the word classic, that makes a distinction on what the look is. And I think George's look, although he was incredible, is a bodybuilding hardcore 212 look.
He had a lot of trouble making that weight, George. He didn't have the 48 hours they're going to have at the Olympia to carb up. He had 6 hours or 2 hours. And that definitely counts for something. You know that.
Well,
I know
Arash
that.
put on 17 pounds last year between the weigh-in and the finals. How many hours was it, Arash?
Between weigh-in and a night?
Yeah. Day and a half,
half.
17 pounds.
Yeah.
So things can...
Right. So do you think George will...
If I was with Milos, it's going to be 45 pounds.
Yeah, with insulin. Do you think George will do well at the Olympia because he has that extra time?
He might be bigger. I don't think he's... I think he's tremendous. I think he belongs in the 212.
I do too.
Because I just when you see him up there, you're like you're thinking, well, how would he do against Ronnie Raquel? He'd beat him on the back double for sure. Period.
Let's talk about one more class. I want to talk about the women's physique because Shanique Grant is so good that my jaw hits the ground when I see this girl on stage. I believe, and I don't know if anyone else agrees with me. I know Johnny doesn't agree with me, but I believe that she can win the Olympia this year.
She can win the Olympia. She'll.
And that's nothing against Juliana Malcarney.
She's just. To me, she looks like a superstar.
She's like a little Linda Murray.
Well, she.
Maybe better.
She's got a lot of muscle, a lot of crazy taper, a lot of
smallest waist I've ever seen.
Yeah, athletic look. Beautiful girl.
21 too.
That's amazing. I mean, she's amazing.
You think she can win the Olympia? You can tell me the truth.
Yeah, she can win the Olympia for sure.
And I think once she wins it, she'll win it 10 more times. That's my prediction. You heard it here first. Look who we got behind us. Sergio Oliva Jr. Come on, one more victory post me. Come on, Sergio. I'll hold the plaque.
I don't want to leave.
I don't want to leave the stage. Give me the plaque. One more victory
Don't
post.
make me leave.
All right, you saw it all tonight. Dave Palumbo here with Chris the Technician Aceto. We're here at the New York Pro 2017. We'll see you next year.